Hey, Rush fans, this is John Kane, co-host and creator of the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast. Welcome to episodes 56 and 57 of the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast. We are still taking a little bit of a break. We'll be back mid-September. Don't you worry. We'll have all new fall episodes carrying us through the winter and spring, obviously, for the second half of this incredible ride. Post 50 episodes here on the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast. Anyway, this week we have a very special guest, Andre Cholmondeley. And Andre interviewed Alex Lifeson back in April. He was one of the first to sort of break open or open wide this conversation with Alex post-Rush. And he did a fine job. A brief bio on Andre. He's Asheville, North Carolina-based musician, sound designer, guitarist, synthesist, and founder of the project Object, longest-running Zappa-alumni-based tribute band in the world from the early 1980s. He's worked with synthesists in his original music, from early guitar synths and pedals to studying analog synths, musique, concrete, tape splicing, and world music at Rutgers University. Very incredible background. Currently he works with an ever-evolving compact, modular, and guitar setup. Very talented musician. Andre has demoed at trade shows internationally for Moog synths, and usually he's on tour somewhere as a tour manager, tech, or production manager for over 25 years with prog rock, fusion, and blues legends like Al Di Meola, Keith Emerson, Mo, Derek Trucks, 10 years after, Eddie Jobson, and the incredible band Yes. He's toured and performed in more than 10 countries on 2 continents with over a dozen of Frank Zappa's alumni like Don Preston, Ike Willis, Ed Mann, and Napoleon Murphy Brock. He's an interviewer, as we know, and also the show host for the Make Weird Music, a popular YouTube channel and social media presence that promotes unique and envelope-pushing art and artists. And this is how we know him, through that channel, while interviewing Alex Lifeson back in the spring, and he did a fine job. And we want to thank Andre for joining us on Two Guys Talking Rush. We hope you enjoy these episodes. Send us your feedback at twoguystalkingrush@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you soon. And what can I say, folks? Rush rules.
Yeah! Hi, this is Andre Cholmondeley, and you're watching and listening to Two Guys Talking Rush.
Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys.
And now, get ready for the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast with your hosts, John Kane and Dan Buxton.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, you were talking earlier about your approach to interviewing Alex Lifeson, and the venue or vehicle by which you do this is through the Make Weird Music organization, right? So that's the channel. I watched it live, so that's what I saw. And you were smart. I think that was. I mean, listen, we always say on Two Guys Talking Rush, if we were to have the guys on from Rush, we wouldn't talk about Rush at all. We would probably just talk about their favorite foods, and what their what they like to wear, just other things, right? And just talking about Victor, I think that was really smart and also important. I mean, these are, even with Geddy's solo album, they may not be on the top. Within the top 5 of the best albums that Rush fans love, but we sort of recognize them for what they are. And there are certainly sort of tastes of Rush within them, especially with Geddy's album, of course, with Victor, there are parts of it. So what is with it being the 25th anniversary of Victor, or at least in January, what's your take on the album? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it?
Sure.
Why do you think it's an important album?
Sure. It's it's sitting a little too far away to do a visual, but instead I'll do a visual for the Rush fans on this.
There you go. Roll the bones action there.
I flipped through this and the answers are all here. But no, I think it's held up beautifully. Actually, I think, and that's what was so exciting. As soon as the light went off and I realized 25 years, I realized there's so much to talk about here because. So first thing I think, and we did touch on this, was from my technical kind of production synthesizer guy's side, how well the synths were part of it, and how well they sat in the mix. They weren't overpowering. They don't sound like dated or something, you know. So I think that's a part that holds up, and I think now that we're in this, whatever we want to count it, third or fourth explosion of synthesizers, it's mind-blowing. The young people that are getting into synths, hardware and software, I love it. I love seeing it. Yeah. So I thought, anyone who hasn't heard this record ever, I dare you, put it on and tell me what year it's from. Right. Because, you know, there's an aspect of it that could work, that it's kind of current. Yes, it nods to some of the 80s stuff like Visage and something. Moments there where you can say, okay, a little Joy Division or New Order, whatever, some of these synth bands, which Alex lovingly says, oh yeah, we loved all that stuff, and so there's these elements, but I think that again, what's unique still is how it's got all that stuff, but it's still just got some ballsy, big Zeppelin-esque riffs. Yes, you know, and so he never kind of loses the plot on the number of things that he was about. I think also what makes any good record timeless is some element of kind of mystery, and it's kind of mysterious. You have to dig those lyrics. You got to dig through. You got to you read those lyrics. You go, what's the angle on this? And I think that's another thing. I love AC/DC, Let There Be Rock, but the lyrics are trapped in a time.
Yeah,
let's face it. And that record, Victor, like a lot of Rush, but like a lot of all kinds of things, Steely Dan, Asia, whatever. If you write obscure enough, then you can get away with no one knows. So
several interpretations, right?
Yeah, that's another real strong thing about that record. Is how weird the lyrics are, and so I think it held up beautifully. I think I was vindicated to quite a degree because in the comments, which I quite enjoyed checking out, I didn't expect this, but there was a huge amount. I'm going to use the word huge. It was actually a huge amount of people commenting, you know, I've never listened to that. And then like 2 days later, they'd say, this is great. How did I miss this? I saw that over and over. I saw a lot of Rush fans going, oh, man, I kind of blew it off.
Yeah.
This was great. Are you kidding me? Where was I? That was really said a lot. So I think that also proves that there's a timelessness about it.
Yeah. And as your guitarist, how would you explain Lifeson's approach to guitar playing? I mean, he's, in my view, probably one of the most underrated guitarists. Dan and I talk about the comparison of David Gilmour to Lifeson with regard to popularity and how not realizing how impactful they are to the landscape of popular rock and roll music. There's the legends, there's the Pages, the Hendrix, there's so many, right, that have etched their names in this this monolith of stone. They're in there. Where's Lifeson for you within this sort of continuum of legendary rock and roll guitarists?
Great question, and I'll say. Parenthetically, I love that we brought up Elliot Easton before, because he's another person who's in that universe where it's kind of surreal. These are not obscure people. They have top 10 hits, but as a household name, he's not. Elliot,
right.
No,
so it's a similar thing on a different level. And then the other person I think of, there's three. Alex is one, and these guys. The other one is a guy named Neil Giraldo. You know who that is?
Yeah, Neil Giraldo. Yeah, definitely.
He's my candidate for guitarist with the most top 10 hits who no one knows.
Right.
You can't find anyone else.
I have to feel like that's kind of partially by design though, because I mean,
nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the sense I get is that he was always very happy that
absolutely
put the spotlight on her.
I'm
going to write the songs. I'm going to play, but I look over there. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not attaching any like woe is me or judgment to it. But there's more saying it's remarkable. Okay, bringing us to Alex. There's a similar aspect. Right. To have someone in a band that is, what's the statistic? Sixth most gold records out of any rock band. Yeah. That's mind blowing, right? I don't think people pause and think about that. How big of a selling band Rush is. You've got, let's see if I can get it right. Stones, Beatles, Kiss, one more, Aerosmith, and then Rush, right? Maybe I missed one.
Maybe a
something like
Zeppelin
that,
in there. No?
But no, not even Zeppelin.
No, Zeppelin didn't make it. Yeah.
That's what. So when you think of it that way, and you think on this global setting, how many people have these records? And you're right. He's not famous. He's incredibly legendary, well-known guy. Yeah. But you're right. On the scale of a Gilmour or Page or Brian May, you don't have that kind of sense. Yeah. Yet he's actually penetrated more demographics and more, than anyone. So I think that's really the thing that he's pulled off, because in a way it left him a lot more room to live his life. We all know, we've read so many interviews with these guys, and they both, the two in Toronto, for as colossal as they are, they always tell that story of, I go out for coffee, I go shopping. Sure, someone says hi, but people are very nice to us. We don't. I don't think Keith Richards gets to pull that off.
Definitely not.
No, decidedly not. No.
So that's one aspect of it. On the more musical side, to your question, great question, and man, he is so heavy. He's so deep, because I think one of the things about Alex is that just wow, what an open heart, what an open listening spirit he's always had. I think of the earliest interviews, and he's just happy to be playing guitar, it seems. And he very early on was talking about folk music and experimental music and loving what was new at the time. They loved the Police and the Cars, Tears for Fears. And then he also would always talk about the fusion stuff that he loved, whether it's Jeff Beck or Alan Holdsworth. And I also loved that he would talk about all this stuff and then go somewhere else. He never was like, man, I got to get that Alan Holdsworth bag down, or that Steve Howe thing. Yeah. He took elements. I mean, you can't listen to the beginning of Farewell to Kings and not go, big Yes fan, or The Trees or something. And he's the first to say, oh, man, we were getting stoned listening to Yes. I had to buy a nylon string. He's the first. But what's beautiful is that he just kind of took a snapshot of it, integrated it into his style, and moved on. I think that's what's amazing about him. And listening back as a guitarist, wow, the bag of tricks is endless. And I think the other aspect too, if I was teaching a course in Alex Lifeson, would be the lesson of simplicity. Because you listen back and he truly uses effects as an effect. Like they come in, they come out. The handful of times he's using a wah-wah, for instance, like take the Cinderella Man solo. Right. Yeah. It doesn't sound like any other Lifeson solo. Right. It's kind of weird. It's not like Kirk Hammett using the wah-wah and like every wow. I mean, he has his style, but it's just like, oh, that's it. It's Kirk Hammett. I mean, no offense to Kirk Hammett. No. But yeah, that's his thing. Alex obviously got one right around there because he did it on the end of Farewell to Kings and kind of, and then other times when he got the jazz chorus, hemispheres is, but then he gets rid of it and he goes somewhere else. So I think that's what's amazing about him too, is that he was very careful about picking these sounds, which leads to my other major flag that I'll plant about Alex Lifeson that you can't say about almost anyone else. You take a Tony Iommi, you take a Jimmy Page, a Jimi Hendrix.
Yep.
You take Eddie Van Halen, any of these people that are really on that level of this is an influential Mount Rushmore list of people.
Right.
Almost any of the other ones, Gilmore, whoever, that you kind of go, yeah.
Richie Blackmore.
You say Strat, JTM 45, and then later an 800, but that's what they did. Or you say, yep, that guy or gal, Les Paul, low wattage combos. That's their sound. Angus Young, yep, SG, JTM 45's leads, that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
They created empires on one or two or three really good sounds. What's amazing?
I would be like upset if Angus Young used a different guitar.
Come on.
Once.
What's
like, that would piss me off.
Reduction sauce. Sauce.
Totally.
What's amazing about Alex that really he stands in a very almost solitary place in rock. I mean, you know, you have a guy like Pat Metheny or Adrian Ballou in other areas who do this, but in rock and in such a successful band, to do something that daring, to say, nope, I've gone away from 335s, 345s, it's Strats now. Nope, I went over to Les Pauls with Marshalls. Nope, I went over here and it's more of a chorusy, thinner sound, and I'm different type of distortion. He really found these different sounds over the years. I mean, the difference from Caressive Steel to
Power Windows.
Owens. Right.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
yet what's incredible about him is, you know, it's him. The signature is there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that gets into a long discussion of like his use of open strings a lot, his use of there's certain things he does, what guitar he's playing. But I think that's where he's really the Jedi also, that he was able to pull off completely changing the setting he's playing in. Amazing.
We talk often about the legacy of Alex Lifeson and some of his most distinct solos throughout his career with Rush, and as it relates to the final Rush album, the Clockwork Angels album, which comes up a lot in the as one of the top 5 albums in people's lists most commonly. Sure. It's a wonderful album that whether you like it or not, that sort of caps off this incredible career. In particular, the final song, "The Garden," and the solo of "The Garden," absolutely encapsulating and harkens back to the classic Lifeson the emotional quality of those Lifeson solos and that signature sound. I think it's phenomenal. I also find it quite eerie because it's prophetic. It's the end.
Yeah,
it's so fucked up in that way. It's like, whoa, did he know? I mean, the way he plays it, even some of the live sequences when you see them on YouTube, and if you saw the tour live, the way he plays it, it's almost like he knows this is the end. See you later. Here it is. You know.
You're exactly right. There's a haunting.
Yes,
edge to
that's a
it.
haunting solo.
I've got
there it is.
So I did see this tour, and this is the final tour I saw. Actually, I think you guys know that I saw every tour from.
Well, I wanted to ask you, when did you see them? When did you first see Rush live?
I saw them, and that program is in another room. I guess I have it where the hemispheres. Wow. My first show was age 14, August 22nd, 1979, at the Capitol Center in Largo, Maryland.
Wow.
Yeah. Cool. I think it was the 22nd. But what they would always do back then is a mini tour between the albums. And they would kind of clean up some parts and get ready to record stuff. And then,
of course, they had an opening act and they'd only play for an hour and a half. I mean, they didn't do the big evening with Rush events until way later.
Yeah, exactly. And I forget who or if they had an opener here. I give thanks because I was staying with my uncle in Washington, D.C. in the area for the summer. And I said, this is Rush. I'd just gotten into them a year ago, if that. And I was like, can I go? And kudos to my uncle who takes a 14-year-old who's not his kid, it's his sister's kid, and says, yeah, I'll drop you off here.
Wow.
So cool.
Which again, we can't pretend the elephant in the room. we're in an America that's still struggling through a lot of stuff. We're in a difficult week right now. We're in a situation where there's a lot of racial reckoning, and I can't not say that in 1979 to drop a black kid off in the middle of Maryland to go. In fact, it's the place they film.
It was heavy metal parking lot, right?
Right.
Yeah, right. That's what I thought.
That's right. Yeah.
So picture those kids, and I was fine. It was fine, and I had good and bad experiences in that world as a rock.
Yeah.
A black kid in rock, and there's movies about that. So there's a whole thing there. But for him at age 14 to take me in and then just be in the parking lot at 11:30 waiting for me. Thank you. So that was my first one.
That's fucking awesome. I mean, I have to say, it's so. I love it, man.
Thank God for uncles.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, I mean, growing up in Boston, I mean, my best friend is Puerto Rican, and he was a Puerto Rican metalhead. And, there weren't many, and we just hung out all the time. So I think people thought I was Puerto Rican as well, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And we went to all the shows, and I would go back to my old neighborhood where every white friend was breakdancing. And I'm like, this is fucked up.
Music, that's the key, though.
It's so true, man. Yeah,
music can save us, and we really should.
I love it.
Be funding it more,
and it embraces. It's the great equalizer in a lot of ways.
It really is. It really is. And when you have someone like him or not, when you have someone like Lil Nas X, who is a black gay country rap guy, and you go, okay, because you've got these 10-gallon hat Texas dudes. Singing along, they love him. Yeah. They would never listen to hip hop, and then you got some hip hop fans who love him, and then you've got all kinds of people, housewives, gay, straight. So music disabled. So then I just went back and I started seeing every tour. I mean, I was lucky. I lived near New York City, and they would arrive like clockwork, almost the same week in April, May every year at Madison Square Garden.
Nice.
And so for 6-7 years. It was like, that's it. Rush is there at the end of the school year every year. And I went hell or high water. I went several times alone. I became kind of expert at going to shows alone. Because if I had any friends who were like, well, I don't know, I'd say, I'm buying a ticket. We don't screw around.
Right.
And so I saw every tour up until Clockwork. And then the final tour, I was on tour with Yes. Heartbreaking. I mean, I looked at that schedule 20 times going, oh, man, I'll fly to a gig.
Wow.
There's some way, somehow.
Didn't make it.
Incredible.
That happens a lot when you.
So you saw all the 80s shows, the Power Windows tour, Hold Your Fire, all that. Good for you, man. I did the same thing as you. I was Rush shamed. I was. I'm a victim of Rush shaming. I think in many ways I still am, with friends that just don't get it, and I don't give a shit. And it sort of pissed me off as Rush became more mainstream, because when I was Rush shamed, I was like, well, fuck you, more for me. It gives more, But yeah, I would go to shows alone, and I like going to shows alone. I don't know why more people don't do it. You meet new people, and you also really focus in.
Yeah.
What are you going to show for with someone anyway? To talk to them? I mean, it's right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's one of the things that stands out for me is there's a Robert Fripp quote, and I'm going to get it wrong, but I'll paraphrase. But he says something about being an audient member.
Yes.
First time I heard that word conjugated in that way, audient with a T on the end, and I said, oh yeah, that is a word. You are being audient. You are just shutting the fuck up and listening and watching with your eyes. And that became, I'm a Jedi concert goer. I'm there to listen and soak it up. My phone's in my pocket once we became phone people, and I have a rule where if I do take it out, I'm taking 1 or 2 pictures in between songs, and this whole thing of standing there the whole night.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Before you came on, we had Dave Davidian on, who is the video director for all the Rush tours from 2002, Vapor Trails and on. And we asked him that question: what did you think of all the phones going up at a certain point? And it's a pain. It sucks. It takes you out of the element. You're not really there. You're not there. And
even way back, just people talking and just people I was the guy who would move, and I'm like, are you kidding? We waited all year for this.
Shut up, focus.
Yeah, no. That's really a thing for me still. The other funny thing about this
is that an American thing though? Do you think? I mean, just sort of
it skews heavier here. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Like the other end of the spectrum is Japan.
Right.
Yeah. Japanese. Oh my God. You kind of wonder if something's wrong. Like when you come out as a tech and it's 7:57, the show's going to start. You do your last kind of, everything's cool, checking for the third time. When you do that in Japan, you have a chill moment of like, what's up, people? Are you okay? Because they're just
polite,
silent,
respectful.
They're serious, man. They know. But I think it varies. But yeah, America it skews pretty far to
the phone thing's totally.
Yeah, you see that everywhere, but varying degrees. But what amazes me is when you're at a show and someone, there's a great band happening, and you're standing wherever, and you look in front of you, and there's 300 phones. What always gets me is like, don't any of these people look around and say, hey, 200 other people are taping this. I don't need to.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the point?
It's clearly being documented.
It becomes meaningless.
I can actually just watch. That's the fascinating human moment to me, that no one looks around and says, why am I taping it also? I mean,
so strange.
I said this with our previous guest also. But I mean, people will do that at concerts where they announce we're taping this. Yeah. We're filming this tonight, but people are still like, oh, okay.
It's terrible.
I think people want to feel like they own a part of it, like that somehow, and that they can prove they were there.
I know. It's weird.
I started on, I don't know. When I'm there, I'm there. I'm there to hear the music, and I don't want to be distracted by other stuff. I think distraction is bad. That's just me. I'm a crazy person. I think distraction is bad. Yeah. I cannot understand, especially with ticket prices being what they are and everything. That's like, you better make sure you get every last drop of juice out of the experience. I cannot understand these people who go there and it's like they're sitting at home watching Netflix. I don't get it at all.
Dude, the amount of times I've been I've been to so many shows where it's the first time the person's played in 20 years, or it's a sold out.
Yeah. The final performance.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're at these special things and someone's gabbing right next to you, you just move. What are you going to do?
Did you ever see that video of Ray LaMontagne? I like Ray LaMontagne. I think he's a great singer-songwriter, and he's good. He's from Maine, and he's got some good albums. Acoustic singer-songwriter. I don't know, Dan, you know Ray LaMontagne?
I don't.
No. And he stopped. There was this couple, this woman just blabbering in the front. And he's singing some soft song, and he just says, I'll be back after you're done talking. He left the stage. But even with the phone stuff, we were talking about the famous field goal kick that Rob Halford did with that kid's phone.
Yeah.
Did you see that video? He goes, boom, the thing just flies out.
He was doing the Lord's work when he did that. So it needed to happen.
It's well, let's see when we come out of this, which is going to be a long process. If there's I think there'll be a different appreciation of reality. Going in the other direction, to your point, Dan, I was just talking to someone about this the other day. What's blowing up is the Oculus concert viewing thing. Have you seen or know about this?
Oh yes.
So because there's already concert content you can watch where you are literally standing in the audience.
Right.
And you look to your left, you look to your right, there's other people. That's trippy.
Yeah, that's
but you can also adjust crowd volume and kind of so you can literally now this is and I know there's going to be someone going, "Oh, that's ridiculous. I like the real thing." That's fine. Then you don't do that.
Yeah.
But there's millions of people in this new generation we're heading into that are going to say, "This is great."
Yeah. So is it a live? It's not a video game. It's an actual video feed of the show that you're in.
Yes.
Oh wow.
So you watch the whole show.
You watch the whole show live, but from home in the deal. Whoa.
Exactly, or anywhere really.
Wow.
Anywhere.
I wonder if those people still hold up their phones while they have the Oculus on, so so they can film their house.
What's funny is and I'm a big fan of Black Mirror, right? You've seen that?
Yeah.
What's funny is you don't have to think too hard to get to a place where you can you'll be able to do that in the virtual reality or not. Yeah. You can turn off other people doing it or not. I mean, the mind reels once you get into where we're headed with AI and with music and with the technologies that have been accelerated this past year. Just myself, I'm thinking about it a lot because now it's a 1-year mark. But as I sit in my studio, the amount of stuff I've learned to do, I do 3 or 4 camera feed concerts from right here. I do live streams of acoustic music. I have a Patreon account, by the way. If people look for me on Patreon, it's just patreon.com, my name. Cool. But I do performances here of acoustic music. I do electronic music. Mm-hmm. Tonight. I do workshops. I do tutorials. I teach guitar. I do interviews, as you know. I just interviewed Alex Skolnick, the other Alex.
Testament. Cool. I'm a Testament fan.
Totally.
Yeah, he's got a great podcast too, man.
Great podcast. We talked about it, right? Moods and modes. So
he just interviewed Peter Frampton. He just did the.
That's right.
Frampton one. That was good.
One. So my interview with Alex is on the Make.
Cool. I'll check it out.
YouTube. So I'm doing all this stuff. My point is, if you had said to me a year and a half ago, hey, you need to learn OBS and Zoom and multi-camera mixing and scripting scene changes and inserting video feeds that are overlaid, and I'd go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But this pandemic has forced a lot of us to. So I think on the other side, music is altered forever now. It's forever because even when bands go back on tour, I predict many more of them will do really what bands already have been doing. There's a band called Humphreys McGee. Do you know them?
I've seen them a few. They're excellent.
Yeah. Oh, huge band.
Yes. They're great.
And they're one of these bands that's interesting in the modern era because whether it's Florence and the Machine or Mo or these guys or Tune Yards or any number of bands I could bring up. A lot of people don't hear about them, but you go look them up, and they're doing so.
And they're playing Tool, they're playing like Tool covers and stuff. Yeah.
Snarky Puppy, Snarky Puppy sells out venue after venue, and I meet people who don't know who they are. Having said that, a lot of these bands I just mentioned have for years now already been doing webcasts, so they're ready. But my prediction is that when we go back to touring, just about every band is going to realize, what are we doing? Set up 4 GoPros, have one person with another computer, and suddenly you have this worldwide monetized thing, which has worked for years for bands. Yeah. I think bands are going to realize we need to do this economically, and there's a huge demand now.
Also, the imprint. Sorry, Dan. The imprint that COVID will leave on society. It might take a few generations for it to wash out because I was talking about this with my wife. We're avid concert goers, festival goers. Could you ever imagine going into a sweaty, hot festival field with your skin rubbing up against each other, breathing and coughing? And it just doesn't seem like a reality anymore because now we look at each other differently, in that way. I don't want to do that.
No,
I don't want to be that person.
But it's reality.
It's reality. Yeah.
No, you raised a great point. So I have a question for you guys. I was just talking to, as I do almost every day, I'm either talking to venue owners, booking agents, talent buyers, promoters. I'm talking to people in the Yes crew, fellow crew members people that work for other people. So this is a topic all the time. What happens? What are the pieces? And a big topic, of course, and I'd love your guys' opinion. Festivals is a great, that's a great example, John. Do you want, say it's Bonnaroo, do you want Bonnaroo to be able to say to you, we're not letting anyone in that doesn't prove vaccination.
Vaccination card. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? Would that make you feel safer and better? Versus the privacy issues.
I think it's inevitable that they're going to do that.
Right.
That's most definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
Would I feel safer walking into a venue or a festival knowing that they had a vetting or a process or systemized process of vaccination accuracy or whatever statement that is?
Mm-hmm.
I would probably feel 50% better. But Dan and I were talking about how even if after everybody's vaccinated, are you still going to wear a mask? Is there still a fear? And I'm probably going to wear a mask for a while.
Yeah. The math. Yeah. The math and science are coming at us, and it's now almost May, but certainly since January, for instance, they've got numbers now that say much more clearly that, okay, once you're vaccinated, you can't catch it. Earlier on, they were saying you could still catch it, you could still pass it around. Right. Now that's sloping down a little bit. But I'm with you. I got the J&J 1 week ago, so I'm still, awaiting.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I would do is I would pay an extra $50 for a ticket or for a venue or to a band on top of what that ticket price would have been, knowing that they did have a vaccination system in place and that there was less capacity. So it would provide just a little bit more space from each other. I would do that. In an outside environment, most definitely. I don't want to be jammed in to a tuna can with people anymore, man.
That's over. Thank you.
Over. Yeah.
I'm not sorry that's over either. There have been a lot of things about concert going and that sort of thing that I felt like.
Yeah, but you have social anxiety. You've said it before, Dan, right?
Yeah, no, but I mean it's not just that. I mean it's literally crowds of people. In less space. And that's been pushed, I think, to about as far as it can go. Yeah. If it takes a global pandemic, maybe for people who own these venues to be like, all right, maybe we'll take it down a little bit. That's one thing. I don't have a problem with like the vaccine passport. I don't have a problem with still wearing masks. Things are different now. We're living in a different world.
I'm so sad that I can't smell the stink of humanity in a large rock and roll venue. I love sweaty rock and roll. I love arena rock. And what's sad is that it's going to take a long time to get that back. Maybe this is the rebirth of rock and roll in a lot of ways. Maybe it's just been leveled.
It's going to be a recalibration, definitely. And it's it's like if you sort of take something and shake it up. And it's like, okay, now what is it?
But on the topic of Rush, Dan, what would Rush have done during COVID? The roar of the crowd, 20,000 jams, singing Spirited Radio. That wouldn't have happened,
We were lucky to see what we did when we did,
You're right.
But you have to be able to accept math and science and facts and be like, we can still have this, but it needs to, be modified somehow so we can still have the experience or 80% of the experience or whatever. People are expecting that like one day you just go back and it's over.
Flip switch.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, it's not going to happen.
You could also be a promoter and say, listen, I'm putting on a concert tomorrow, right? The capacity is 10,000 and here's a waiver. And I have no liability. You are risking yourself right now. And then that's it.
That's called the Vanilla Ice plan.
No, I like that. No, Dan, spot on. And I love that you said what I don't hear almost anyone saying, which is at the core of this is an acceptance of reality.
Right.
And I think what we're experiencing is this meta psychological moment where modern people, most modern generations, not all, but modern humans are so in control of their environment and their reality with the phones and the tablets and everything, and just the way that they really craft their image on social media and all this stuff. Yeah. I think all of that,
their personal brands,
everything. But I think it's created a personal distance where a lot of people can't accept that there's something outside of our control.
That's bigger than us.
It's unthinkable. They just can't. They just think we can. I'm over this, so it must be over.
They've never had their lives disrupted by something like this. When you talk to like older relatives who have lived through like the Great Depression or wars or something like that, it's like it happens. Life gets interrupted by external forces. For me and people my age, this has never happened before. And they don't know at like 50 years old, how do I just completely change everything? You get with the program or you don't. You
just do. And right. What I've done is, I've always been a student of history, so I've always been reading about just weird shit. Like Isaac Newton was bullied in high school, so he tried harder.
I did. Yeah,
invented calculus. Or I read about just biographies, whether it's Malcolm X or someone in 1500s or whatever. But I study history. I study especially American history, World War I, World War II, and I think. Like you're saying, it sounds like you did too. I think it instructs you that, shit went wrong a bunch of times. Roman Empire, Aztecs and Mayans, Chinese, the Ming Dynasty. Stuff doesn't work out. There's plagues.
I think we're touching on a couple of things. One is how, and I think what you're trying to say is how this pandemic is inconveniencing a society that is somewhat rich with all this extra stuff that they have. They're just we're pampered. We have the things that we just have at our fingertips are now being taken away. Maybe we're just a bunch of babies, crying over what we can't get.
There's a lot of that. Obviously, I'm not going to impugn every human. No, my other half and I make up we say this all the time. We've been saying this for almost a year.
Yeah.
We just turn to each other and say, well, Anne Frank made it. And it's dark humor. It's dark, but we're very serious. And I've been to Anne Frank.
True. It's true. That's the
and we say, these crybabies.
Right.
This young girl and the 7 or 8 other people for over 2 years padded around in socks so no one would hear them and kill them.
Right.
They ate canned food. They ate the same food. They slept quietly like mice during the day so no one. And you can't shut up. Order some pizza or chicken or Thai or Chinese or Italian or Mexican or Middle Eastern or steaks or watch any movie you want.
Right.
Keep buying new clothes and sneakers.
Right. You can't wear a mask while you go shopping. It's just
can't pull that off, huh?
I know.
Okay.
It's selfishness, man.
They don't want to make the sacrifice for the larger society. When during World War II, there was rationing of all kinds of stuff, and people were just like, it's for the greater good. This matters.
That's right.
And
all for England, and they turn their lights off, and they,
and it annoys me. That we in this country cannot get it together to be like, I'm going to wear a mask so my neighbor doesn't get sick.
Yeah. No. I love segues, and of course, going back to Rush.
I was going to say, let's get back into Rush.
All that we can do is just survive. That's another one, and another thing that's beautiful about Rush, and it's funny because people might think they're not talking about Rush. It actually is all about Rush, because for me, the upbringing of Rush and Neil's lyrics, especially, has made me who I am, a global citizen. When you think of the lyrics in Territories,
right?
I love that song.
That's the heaviest. That's all you need. It's all there. He's talking about the nationalism, and he talks throughout the history of Rush about what you just said, caring about the collective. But balancing it. The idea of 2112 and an anthem is kind of an anti-collective thing, and saying, here's where it can go wrong, the trees and things like that. But what I think some people miss is that the yin-yang of what Neil is talking about often is, but we also are a collective. We're a planet that needs to work together. Let's embrace our differences. Let's kind of, but if we're going to go invade another country and then just complain that the better beer was back where you were, something's wrong. You're planting a flag for some kind of. So I think songs like that.
That's a great tune, man. And
his
it makes a
his
good point.
lyrics just really worked in shades of gray. He was really good at focusing on what the nuances were.
Yeah.
And why this situation that maybe seems simple on its face is not so simple. He understood people very well. He understood human behavior very well.
Yeah.
And I am hard pressed to think of another like stadium packing band that was able to like really get that deep and really get that nuance. I mean, there's nobody I can think of.
Can't do it. We could find all kinds of other brilliant lyricists, but they were playing to 150 people. And the other one that I always think about that fits right into today is "Show Me, Don't Tell Me."
Yes,
where this idea of fake news. That's what he's talking about 30 years before.
Yeah,
and this idea of because to me the takeaway from the song is we as citizens, we as people trying to figure it out, we got to work harder. You got to show me the facts. I got to work harder. I've got to dig and look at different sides and sit and think about things. Yeah. And that alarms me that a lot of people don't do that. They get spoon fed from whatever side they pick.
Right.
And again, that's so a lot of the.
I always felt that Rush were sort of anti-media anyway. I never felt as though they were always questioning the sort of stuff, even with their promotions. The way they promoted themselves, because
careful,
very careful and very much under the radar, never worrying about getting played on the radio or if their videos were good enough. There was something to be said for the legions of fans that filled those arenas at a point where no one really knew about them, in a collective way on the popular scale, But let me ask you something. What's your take on? It's the 40th anniversary of Moving Pictures this year. What's your take on this sort of lackluster celebration of such a masterful album? There hasn't been much, just curious about your opinion on that.
No, it's true. I think I saw it, and I almost did a posting of it. There was other stuff that week, and I'm funny with the social media thing. I look around and I go, you know what? If it's being played to death already, I'm not going to join in. Yeah. And I saw a few little mentions, and I was probably pretty busy right then. But there was a little heartbreak, though. I was a little bit like, this should be a national holiday.
Yes.
Are you fucking kidding me? That record. So having said that, I'm cognizant that we're all facing a little burnout. We're in a we're a little bit of a zone, especially during COVID and where, because let's face it, every 3 days something's 40 years old.
That's true.
50 years old. Yeah. So I think Moving Pictures, amongst a couple of the records, has suffered a little bit from just the endless. Yeah. There's too many things. I would think probably on the Rush forums, on the Rush groups, there was lots of high fives and parties. I didn't have time to jump in, but I put the record on a bit right around then, and I thought about actually during my interview where Alex said, to my surprise a little bit, as soon as the record came up, he said emphatically, I forget the exact words, but just said, well, that's the greatest thing we've done. Right? He just. There wasn't even like, well, let me. He didn't
even have to think about it for a minute. He was saying everything about it fell into place.
Yeah, I thought that was remarkable, and that fit in real time. Starting in 1999, any article, any interview I could get with any three of them, I voraciously read, and I bought all the books and stuff. So you kind of heard an arc through the years of, they didn't have a great time making this record or that record.
Right.
But then famously years later they'd go, that was pretty good. But that one, I'm also a big believer that it doesn't have to be just on that day. In other words, this summer, this spring, we can kind of, people can celebrate that record a bit more and just pick a date, like for instance, the date of the Moving Pictures Madison Square Garden concert is not until next month. That's a pretty good. That was an incredible day. I remember it.
Yeah,
and that's New York City is probably to them one of the most important moments in 1981.
Well, these like commemorative anniversaries are all stepping on each other too. Like I'm seeing stuff about the 40th anniversary of Moving Pictures, and at the 35 same time, the 45th of 2112, and it's like we're in anniversary overload.
You're saying not even other classic albums, even just
just Rush albums.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, it's and I'm careful about it, and as you can see in my interview, I'm careful about that line of nostalgia.
Right.
And what are we doing right now? And I've done interviews with some amazing people, but the Alex one, that was nerve-wracking for me.
I was just going to say that. I mean, how, we were very well prepared. You did an excellent job. It was a wonderful interview. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Interview. But how do you prepare for it? Like just mentally, like you're a Rush fan, you're this kid, you were going to see Rush. You loved Rush from early youth. How do you come to this point? Do you feel like, wow, I've reached this pinnacle of my career where I'm actually interviewing this?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I mean, one of the first interviews I ever did in 1985 was a guy named Gil Scott-Heron. Do you know who that is?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'm so happy you know who he is. Because he's another guy where when I was 16, 17, 18, Neil Peart, Frank Zappa, Gil Scott-Heron, the Dead Kennedys, Devo. I mean, those are kind of my political and social things. So anyway, interviewed Gil Scott-Heron early on, and I interviewed Keith Emerson. I interviewed Malcolm Cecil, who just died, the synth guy. So I had gotten interviewed some pretty amazing people along the way. So coming up to this, I kept trying to tell myself, dude, you got this. It's just another human being.
Yeah.
You've met him before. He's a nice guy. Oh, but the sweat was dripping. I'm going like, oh my God.
I could tell there's a little bit, yeah.
Believe me. So I had to do several kind of Jedi mind tricks, and I wrote down a lot of questions. I had stuff, 2 pages I never got to. But I'm happy in hindsight, and I do this with my interviews to this day, as any interviewer probably does, as you do. I have my 5 or 6 basic questions, and I kind of go, let's make sure we get these, and then I have some backup, things like that. So I kind of did that, and then I kind of listened to Victor a couple times, because I really wanted to have it in my body. And fortunately, I was one of the Rush fans who loved it right away. I just loved it. Much like the 80s time of Rush, when I think back and I realize I was overjoyed at every single one of those records. And it's funny because I have friends to this day, other Rush fan friends, who they fell off. They're like, nope, doesn't sound like Rush. They're dead to me. Wow, okay. And me, I'm going like, yeah, but I love that Tears for Fears record, and I'm hearing some elements. Or I saw Peter Gabriel play last month, and I'm hearing some of those drum sounds over here. Or I've really been into that new Joni Mitchell record with the sampling, and Rush is using that same sound. Yeah. I'm in heaven in 83, 84, 85, 87. I'm listening to Mahavishnu Orchestra and learning about the wall bass and going, oh, Geddy has one now. He's been listening to Jeff Berlin, according to this interview. So I was like, I couldn't believe that one of my favorite bands, at that time probably the favorite band, I was so blown away that they were literally real time pulling in all this stuff in the 80s and world music and the political ideas, and still they were Rush throughout. So I think all of that went into prepping. I just kind of said, you know what, just sit there and acknowledge that this guy has been part of that sort of thing, this sort of flu. When I got to that point, I said, it's going to be okay, because I've got a bunch of Victor questions, and I now have a way to frame any of the Rush questions, which are not going to be detailed. I'm not going to ask about the fuzz box on the end of Xanadu. I'm not going to. That stuff's in other interviews. And once I realized that that's going to be fine, don't worry about it. He's not going to be sitting there expecting yet another. So if one was to go back, and I've only watched it once since, because I had to work on our text transcription. So because I had to distance myself from it emotionally. It was pretty heavy. But when I went back, I was proud that the actual Rush questions were, I think you can count on one hand, and they were kind of different ones.
Right.
And And I love
you had great control. I mean, I think what you're saying is that the more you limit these sort of questions, engagements, the more control you have, and you did a great job.
Well, thank you.
I can't say enough about that.
And Alex loves to tell stories, so it was just like kick him the ball.
Well, he didn't look bored, and I mean, sometimes you could tell if being an interviewer, the interviewee, if they're checking their watch, they're looking at their phone, they're doing that. All right, we got to release, right?
Yeah, so.
Let go. Yeah. So he wasn't doing that. He was very patient.
What also caught me a little off guard, because I wasn't sure, was an X factor. It was, even though he said early on, because I said, hey, Victor's 25 years old. So I didn't go into it with like, hey, Rush. No one's talked to you about Rush in a while. Can we do? So I think that was number one, that we came in and he was happy and he said, we'll talk about anything you like. But what I was very pleasantly encouraged with was that right out of the box, he was actually really excited to get into the details of the album. It was very fresh. Like, I think there's never any time, as you do, sometimes you talk to people about older records, there was never any time where he went, oh, let me see, what track was that? No, was that I can't really remember. I think we did one with the telly. I don't know. No, he was like right there. He was inside the songs. Nice. So that shows actually how much work he put into it, how much energy, how important it was to him.
I think he was probably really appreciative of the interview as well. There was a sense of that, thank you for acknowledging all this work that I put into this record, So that's important, I think. We take so much from Rush, from as fans. I often say we're sort of selfish. We just give me. And with Neil passing, it's like, wow, what more do we want? Just relax. We've got it, and they've given so much to their fan base. Well, I just want to say, Andre, it's been an utmost pleasure having you on the show, and we always ask our guests what their top 5 Rush albums are. So I want to ask you what your top 5.
Okay. Well, 5 top album is
live. Live albums are allowed, by the way. You're allowed to pick a live album if you want to.
Okay. So 5 I can give a shot. Moving Pictures has to be on there.
In what order?
Oh, no, you're killing me here. All right. Wow. So I do have to, man. Wow.
As I say to our guests about this is not legally binding.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Up against the wall here. So I'm gonna go wild card. I'm gonna say my favorite. Oh man, I'll go backwards. Have a 5-1. Okay, so Caress of Steel.
Huh.
I'm just pissing in the wind here. This is so hard. Caress, Clockwork, it's so hard. Okay, so if live albums are allowed, then let's go. I'm forgetting the name of it, but the 80s live album, the third one.
Show of Hands.
Show of Hands, yeah.
Love that.
Just because that covers that whole chunk of time.
Yeah. Right.
Wow, that's rough, man. But I'll say Farewell to Kings and Signals.
Signals your first number 1?
No. Let's swap out. It's hard. This is impossible.
That's why we ask. That's okay. It might change next week. You can call us back in, and we can change it.
Maybe I'll swap. I'll swap that live album with All the World's a Stage.
Okay.
Because you got to have some of that early
stuff.
Les Paul, Marshall, the 2112 energy. That's a very difficult question, my friends. But I think that at least has something from the beginning and the end, and some sprinklings. But what an impossible band! How many albums are there anyway? Like 22?
19 studio albums.
It's always funny with some people don't count the covers record and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But around 20. Yeah, it's.
What if I was to ask you what your favorite Rush song is? Just the one song that speaks to you as an individual. What would that Rush song be? the one that just gets you?
So difficult. Right now, chemistry.
Nice.
Okay, I have to say this. Signals is my favorite album by them, and Chemistry is my favorite song on that album.
There you go.
And the fact that they never performed it live upsets me greatly. I love that song. I love that song.
Thank you. And I pick it because if you had to, everyone's doing something cool in there. It's astounding performances all the way around. And what's cool is, we talked about before, like that entering into the 80s, Vital Signs and all that. That song really encompasses, I think, what they were trying to do. It's got this wall of those Oberheim, I think it's Oberheim voice. It's got this, they pulled it all off. The guitar solo, everything about it. And it also, if you had to tell someone you're on a train ride with, they never heard of Neil Peart, it's a great lyric because it also talks about human interaction and all these cool things that he really visits over and over and over. So
it's really kind of everything you like that you would listen to them for is basically there. I mean, not everything, but
it's just impossible otherwise though. But another candidate would be Anthem.
Yes.
And my quick thing on Anthem is that if Neil had never played another track with them, it would go down as one of the greatest first tracks of a drummer of all time.
Yeah.
And what's interesting when you listen to Anthem, again, it's all there. Great solo, great bass playing, great lyrics. But if you listen to Neil particularly, and then you telescope out from there to the rest of his history, it's almost all there in Anthem. Yeah. He's got the groove. A lot of people don't realize how grooving the guy was and always will be. The groove is there. He does that almost militaristic snare stuff right before the solo. Him and Geddy lock incredibly under the solo, which a lot of rhythm sections don't. He does those trading solo things at the end.
The song has incredible energy. I mean,
mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And then what he does in the intro of the song. I mean, the stuff he's playing is no joke. I mean, and so I always think about, imagine being a Rush fan in 1975. You heard that they lost this guy, John Rutsey. Maybe you saw him twice. And you're kind of pissed off. You're like, oh, man, he was really good. Who did they get? I don't know. They were great live. Let me put this record on. And you just go,
So good.
So that's another one.
I often think that Fly By Night gets overlooked.
It does.
It does. It's one of my favorite Rush. It's in my top 5. My number 1 is Grace Under Pressure. I absolutely love that album.
Yeah, it's so hard to pick.
So big. It's hard to pick.
But that's interesting. You both have 80s ones now, and you're both about 10 years younger than me. Did someone say?
I'm 50.
Not 51.
Okay, so 5-6 years.
I'm R50.
You're R50. Yeah,
exactly. but younger enough so that the 80s one.
My first show was Hold Your Fire. That was the first time, and I went alone.
It's tough to not. I mean, Grace is.
I know it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, I think everyone agrees. Impossible question, but
it is. That's why we ask it. So, where can people? Where can the Two Guys Talking Rush fan base find more about what you're doing?
Sometimes I have a sign I hold up. Well, at Guitar Tour is kind of that's my Instagram, that's my Twitter at Guitar Tour, one word, and that's where people can see stuff. I do live streams, I do music from there. And then guitartour.net is my site. If you forget that, AndreCholmondeley.com, if you can spell my name. To find right now, I'm waiting. We're all hoping that the Yes tour happens next. It's been pushed to next June. I work for Yes, work for Steve Howe, and they're going to go do the entire Relayer album once we get back out there. I work also for a band called Brand X. Geddy was a big fan of Percy Jones, still is. Mm-hmm. So I like anyone in this industry, I'm just waiting to when there's
back to work.
But people can find me at those different spots. And I'm doing music all the time.
And your which I suspect your interview with Alex Lifeson is going to become quite legendary. Where can folks find that interview?
I'm just humbled that I had the chance to do that. But it's at YouTube youtube.com/makeweirdmusic. That's our page.
Okay.
Or makeweirdmusic.com, where you can also find me, and we have all of our interviews linked up there.
And you mentioned a Patreon account where folks can support your work.
Yeah, that's right. It's a new thing for me. For about 2 months now, I've been doing it, and I do about 4 performances a week. I do synth tutorials and workshops. I do guitar effects and looping workshops. I do all kinds of stuff. And so it's patreon.com/Andre Cholmondeley. Just
there it is.
Figure out how to spell my name.
Andre Cholmondeley, thank you for coming on to Two Guys Talking Rush, my friend.
Thank you very much.
An honor and just a wonderful pleasure to just hang out with some fellow Rush nerds.
Can you believe we've been talking about Rush for 2 hours, man?
Totally.
Yeah, that's
how pathetic.
Here, but awesome. See you soon, gentlemen.
Man, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Take care.
You too.
Two guys are talking, rush 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 two guys.